Welcome back to the sweatshop, folks. Today we've got a 2000 Outback. This Subaru has a particular issue with its wiper system. The customer basically has the wipers moving at their own free will because he has a problem with the linkage. So what happens is this is where your wiper is attached, and it shouldn't have that kind of movement. Why it has that movement is because one of the linkages here has failed. So instead of buying this from the dealership and spending an arm and a leg, we have a parts car. So we're going to swap it out and show you how to do that right now. Now this is the valley where your wiper assembly sits. This is your wiper motor here, and this in actuality is called a wiper transmission, these linkages. What you're going to do is wiggle it in like so. There are your 3 bolts that you'll need. Now you want to be careful when placing this thing in. Basically you don't want to hit the fender here, and you also don't want to damage the wire that's coming in there. So be gentle. There is a stud that fell out when we were doing it. We're going to replace it with this just because it's better than the one that fell out. There is a little collar here that goes through this particular hole. So don't forget to replace that collar. When putting it back in, you got your 10 mil up top here, and then you have a stud that goes on the end over there, and this here is the nut that you'll use. Now get your favorite 10 millimeter and just tighten it down. So that's that. Your wiper, transmission, and motor are now installed. All you got to do is connect the connector. Before you do that, just go ahead and inspect it for any debris, dirt, or corrosion, and clean up if needed. Now, before you put your cowl panel on, just make sure that nothing's being hindered or hit, and the wiring is all in the right place. You don't want to put it all back together and then realize you have a problem. Your next step here is to prep to put this all back together. This is the rubber that is at the top of your cowl panel and basically seals the hot air from escaping onto your windshield so you don't get all kinds of fog. These are the clips that hold it in, as well as your cowl panel. What you're going to do is stick the one end of the clip in like so. You're going to lightly stretch the rubber and then slide the other end in like that. And now you're going to have fun doing that for the next 10 holes that are on this strip. Go ahead and do that, and we'll show you the next step. Now, before you put your cowl panel on, what you're going to do is make sure that all these clips are replaced in your cowl panel up top there, okay? Or in the metal portion of it. You're also going to make sure that these are not broken and that they are in place. Now, we've got one missing here. It's quite simple to replace it. You just do that. That's it. So simple, isn't it? Now there is a bit of a trick to putting this guy on. What you want to do is slide it in like this here. Once you get that in there like that, you want to bend it in the middle for a bit, or just bend it in the middle a bit, and that's that. Now the hose, throw it through like that and reconnect it. Voila, you're done. Now before you smash it in place, make sure your clips are lined up so that you don't destroy it. Now you just want to lightly tap it. You don't want to be too hard. If you crack your windshield, the tears will flow. Next step, get that rubber that you worked so hard to put those little clips into and replace it. Here's a tip. Before you go ahead and replace it, make sure you line up the holes properly to make sure that you're putting the clips in the appropriate place. It does only go one way. Alright, once you get to this point, you're ready to put your wiper arms back in. All you're going to do is you're going to line this portion up here. Make sure that the stud from the wiper transmission is sticking through the wiper arm. Now your rule of thumb is here, we're lucky enough to have this heating element on this Subaru, so that's the guide as to where you want to put your wiper blade so that it'll actually get the heat. You're going to force this portion down so that the studded portion here protrudes. You're going to put your nut on. Now just put your nut on loosely. You don't have to go crazy. Grab your wrench and you can cinch it down nice and slowly. When you go to tighten, make sure that you hold the wiper arm in place. That way you're not putting all that strain on the wiper linkages you just replaced. Rule of thumb when you're replacing your wiper arms and putting them back on the vehicle, make sure that you leave some gap between your cowl panel and your wiper, because you don't want them smashing your cowl panel while you're driving down the road. Well, let's go do that other side. Same thing here, push it down into the cowl like that. You don't have to make it touch, just make sure your wiper is on that heating strip. And tighten it down by hand. Make sure to support it while tightening up the nut. Now, there's a reason why I've left the grommet off. The reason is because we're going to test it, and if we have to readjust, you don't want to take the grommet off, because those things can sometimes be tricky, and they do like to fall into the abyss of your engine bay, and it's never fun to look for them, and you'll probably end up giving up on it. So leave it off until you're good and finished, and you make sure that everything's all clear and it's working as it should. Now all you got to do is test it, make sure that it works properly. So you never want to test it dry. Make sure you spray the windshield or wet it, because it can damage your windshield as well as your wiper. It can scratch it, which is never fun. All right, hit it. That's it. Look at that. That's a job well done. Key things to look for: make sure they're not colliding with each other, and make sure that this particular wiper is not going to kiss the windshield or the A-pillar. And friends, that's it. You are good to go. Look at that. You are a real mechanic. Now that we're all done and everything is good to go and we don't have to make any adjustments, you can finally put this plug in. If you liked the video and it helped you out, please give us a thumbs up, share it, and please subscribe. Folks, we'll see you in the next one. What you're going to do is wiggle it in like slow. This is a clip that the fuck did I say? There's some glue type substance to do is place it something like that there. Is that the right one? Yeah, it is. Okay, let's start that shit over again.